Yes, what's happening, folks? Welcome back to Celtic Fans TV. It's live, full-time reaction to Rangers 0, Celtic 1 at Ibrox. I've got Darren and Martin with me to go over that game today. Martin, we'll start with you, mate. I think off the back of those last two performances and seeing the team coming into the game, I think there was a few trepidatious Celtic supporters, let's say. But I thought we handled it. We handled it very, very well, and we came away with a big win.
It was massive. I mean, the lion's share of Celtic fans, probably, if they're being honest, would say they weren't looking forward to today, and in the build-up. And for me, that this was a massive week, Paul. A huge week after the disappointment of getting out in the cup, and then of course our home result against St Johnstone. The team who are probably struggling the most in the league, and we expect to get a few goals against. So you come into this big week. Lots and lots of negativity around the club, predominantly coming from our own fans, if we're being honest. I mean, it's bad enough the outside media are giving us a hard time, but our own fans are acting as if, we've not won a trophy for 10 years. Real concern. And I get the agitation around. We've not gone out and spent absolute fortunes on signings, but a number of things happening this week. First one was, not that we should concern ourselves with what's happening across the city, but, with Rangers managed to get through in that big game against PSV and get themselves into the Champions League. Or would we be the only club to represent Scotland in the Champions League? So that went in our favour. And then to see the Champions League draw, which again I think went in our favour. We didn't get any huge glamorous ties, but we got games that we can hopefully compete in. So that was good news. Good to get some further signings, and of course we did bring some more personnel into the club. Could we retain the talent that we've got and tick in the box there? And of course the biggest thing of the whole week for by all of that was could we go to Ibrox and avoid defeat? I think it was probably what most people would have taken a draw before the game. But not only did we do that, but we went and got a victory today. So everything that could have went our way this week went our way. It's been a huge week for the club. I'm absolutely delighted, not just for the result as a Celtic fan, but I'm hoping this will silence some of the critics. It's far too early in the season for the massive overreaction that there's been. That the team are in a bad place. And I think not only Brendan Rodgers, but the players themselves have earned themselves a lot of credit and respect from the fan base. I could not be happier, as I say, not just with the result, but to put some of the fans inside the club and outside the club back in their box. We are much stronger than what the last couple of results have proven, and a big week for the club.
Yeah, Darren, at the start of the game, you're expecting it to be frantic. It always is in these fixtures. And that going away to Ibrox with 0 away fans, it's going to be tough. We end up losing a goal after 30 seconds, but Dessers is clearly offside in the build-up. And you just thought after that, don't let them build up ahead of steam. Don't let the crowd get up. Don't let them get any momentum in the game. But to be honest, I thought after that, we calmed the game down really well. And Callum McGregor was getting a lot of time on it. And we dealt with that next 15, 20 minutes very, very well. And we were a dominant team in the first half.
Yeah, and I did get a really bad feeling when that offside goal, even though you knew it was offside before the flag came up, you just kind of felt that it was going to lead to Rangers coming out the traps, because they done it last time when we played them at Ibrox, and they were 2-0 up within, 10, 15 minutes or whatever. And it kind of felt that way. But you're right, I think Rangers, I wouldn't say they took the foot off the gas, but maybe they didn't press us as high as they normally did. And I kind of noticed that, like, they gave Scales and Lager Bielka a lot of time on the ball, I thought.
They really sat off as they did.
I know, and given that they knew before getting into the game that our main weakness was in defence, they should have really took advantage of that. Like Dessers and Roof, they're not the quickest of players, and they just kind of sat off. Todd Campbell's a bit deeper, so he couldn't really get in and press the defence.
Was he playing?
Aye, unfortunately. But you're right, and then it let Callum McGregor get so much space, and it was honestly, it was amazing to see compared to how he's been the last few weeks. He's a completely different player. I don't know if it's just because he got that space, which he's not normally getting, and Rangers sitting off him, it allowed him to play a wee bit forward. I thought Matt O'Reilly done really well in midfield as well. Turnbull, he was a bit of a passenger. I'm sure we'll come on to talk about them later on, but Callum McGregor was definitely a key player. Liam Scales, who I thought was amazing. Kyogo, obviously, it was quite not in the game, which he never really is, and that goal was unreal. I'm sure we'll come to talk about that. And you're right, I don't think Rangers troubled us as much as any of us thought, to be honest.
Aye, Martin, you're expecting. I mean, I need to be honest that there was so much to like about the Celtic performance in the first half. As I say, I thought we were really calm, particularly after losing that offside goal, and you think there might be an atmosphere there. I thought we just controlled the game, dictated it. We had plenty of chances. Kyogo has two that he really should do better with before he gets his brilliant finish, which we all come on to just on the stroke of half time. But I need to be honest, that Rangers performance was dreadful. I don't know why for the life of me. They're coming up against a Celtic team who haven't scored for 2 weeks, maybe a wee bit off form, off confidence, and they sat off us with their own crowd. I mean, it's one of the worst atmospheres I think I've ever seen. It's not often that I watch a game on the telly, and I'm usually really nervous when I need to watch it on the telly. I wasn't nervous at all at any point throughout the game. The atmosphere never built up, and that probably shows you the belief they've got in the team they're watching, because it was such a limp performance for what you're expecting going away there in that environment, and we just controlled it. We absolutely controlled it in that first half.
I generally think the pressure was all on Rangers because, as I was saying earlier on, Paul, that all the expectation was Rangers were going to go out and beat us. Nobody gave us a chance going into today's game, which is incredible when you look at the last 10 years in Scottish football. But part of the reason for that is because all the football fans out with ourselves that support Celtic, they all want somebody else to win it. And whether that's because you've got a soft spot for Rangers or you've not, everybody wants to knock the victors off their perch, right? No matter what the sport is, it's nothing to do with whether it's Celtic or not. So the lion's share of people want Celtic to get beat. So you've got all that pressure on you. Then you've got your own fans, really disheartened this week. But what also comes with that is everybody's bigging up Rangers as if all of a sudden they're this superstar team, and of course they're not. They've lost some of their prime assets, right? And the guys they've brought in, they've taken a risk on a lot of them. They're not household names, right? So I've never been convinced. You look at some of the performances this year, limped through the cup with a home victory. Some of the other games they've played in the league at home as well, they've been unconvincing. And then, of course, they've gone out in Europe. So this is a weaker Rangers team to what they had last year. All these alleged superstars in Kent and Morelos. And if you look at the season prior to that, they sold their prime assets as well. What Celtic have managed to do is to hold on to the lion's share of those. Of course, Jota was a disappointment, but we've held on to Carter Vickers, Kyogo, Maeda, Abada. Obviously, our captain stayed. Hatate. We've held on to all those assets, and we've brought in some other, what looks like decent signings. A lot of them are still to see, a lot of them are still to kick a ball for the club, but we're in a position where we're arguably better off. It's an interesting debate to say if we think we're better off or not, but we've only had really Jota and Starfelt that have left, and we've brought in, spent 20 million, I think, on 9 players that we brought in, and some of those big signings, £5 million plus. So you go into that game with a lot of pressure on the home team to get a result because there's an expectation there, bizarrely, right? I mean, I don't know who the bookies' favourite was, but certainly a lot of Celtic fans I spoke to didn't give us much a chance. Partly because we've got some injuries with CCV and Hatate as well, and then the bad run of form, albeit that was restricted to 2 results. One of the biggest arguments in the pub after a game of football was one team brilliant or with our team rubbish. And sometimes when one team's brilliant, it makes other team look rubbish. And sometimes when one team's rubbish, it makes other team look brilliant. So it was a bit like that after the Kilmarnock result. I personally felt Kilmarnock were really, really good. They had a game plan and they stuck to it, and they restricted us in certain areas, and it made us look poor. But of course, you're in the pub afterwards with Celtic bad, or Kilmarnock brilliant. So a bit like that again today. Was it because we were so good and we executed a game plan that we didn't give Rangers an opportunity to press high, or was it that Rangers were poor? Almost always it's a combination of both, isn't it? I thought Cantwell, for example, today, he's expected to be one of the key players, and I thought he was really, really quiet. And one of the reasons Cantwell was really, really quiet is because McGregor was so good. He was absolutely, in that first half in particular, he was unplayable, he was excellent. And of course, you've got the high press. So Rangers might want to do a high press against Celtic and take advantage of the scales. And the whole defence, you could argue, other than Johnston, at left back and the 2 centre backs. But of course, we've got to be a little bit cautious because we've got Maeda flying up the wing, we've got Kyogo buzzing about up front, so we've got plenty going on as well. So they need to be conscious of that counter attack. But I thought it was as much about Celtic imposing themselves in the game than it was about Rangers failing to impose themselves in the game, and that's where the interesting debate comes in.
Yeah, absolutely. You reference that a lot. The difference between the two teams is one team playing well, is one team poor. Do you know the one thing I do like about Cantwell though? He's another one in a long line of Rangers players that does all his talking off the pitch. He just can't deliver. We've seen it time and time again, and he was anonymous today. But you never know, maybe we'll see the Rangers in the next derby, the real Rangers. That's it, innit? Every game. Darren, before we went ahead, Rangers had another goal ruled out. Dessers robs Lagerbielke, squares it for Roof. I mean, I think Lagerbielke, there's no doubt he was dilly-dallying on the ball. He just looked lost. He was turning into trouble. He definitely got away with it, but I mean, it looks like a hard one to call. If it went against you, you'd be upset, but I don't think there's any doubt that in the act of trying to pass the ball with his left foot, Dessers has impeded him, and it's a foul.
Well, you kind of stole the words right out of my mouth there, Paul, because like you said, if it happened to us, I'm sure we'd be sitting here right now saying it's soft, and it was soft. And I don't know how you look at it. I don't know what the rules are these days with, because it's Lagerbielke who's basically kicked Dessers' foot, if you want. So, I mean, we're not going to say it's not a foul because we're Celtic fans at the end of the day, but I mean, I'm sure if we listen to the phone-ins throughout the week, it's all going to be how the Rangers have been cheated. I mean, you heard, see when the referee went to the monitor and the blew his whistle to give a foul, they cheered. That's just how accustomed they are to getting decisions at Ibrox. They're not used to getting decisions given against them at Ibrox, and they're actually chanting. They're chanting for the
didn't
SFA.
Even look for what he was waving for.
Didn't
even look where he was pointing.
They're actually chanting about the SFA, which is sheer delusional, in my opinion. So maybe just give them like a taste of their own medicine. Not a taste of their own medicine, just show that maybe they can't get every single decision against them. I actually said in the group chat, like, after that decision happened, I'm pretty 100% sure we've got a penalty against them. And for lack of trying, they did try and get these soft penalties, Cantwell bumping into Maeda and all that. But, it just never came. Actually, we don't often say this, but I thought the referee had a really good game today.
I mean, I thought ultimately it was the right decision. Listen, as you say, if it had gone against you, you'd be upset, but it's a foul. It does look like Lagerbielke kicks Dessers, but that's because he puts his foot in, and it's almost like he's tripped him up in that action as well, Dessers. So his leg does get there, but Lagerbielke's in the act of trying to pass it back with his left foot. It's a foul. Martin, what did you make of that?
When I seen it in lifetime, I thought it wasn't a foul, but when I watched it back a few times, each time I watched that, I was more convinced that it was a foul. And before the referee ran over at the monitor, I mean, the first thing is when the referee gets asked to go at the monitor, more often than not, you know what the outcome's going to be. And that's because there's something to go and have a look at, because there's a suggestion that a mistake's been made. But during the process, I'm looking at the monitor, when it showed it now 2 or 3 times on the telly, I became more and more convinced that there was a foul. I mean, there wasn't much in it, but I genuinely thought it was a foul. Didn't pay much attention to the half-time debate over it, so I'm not sure what the thoughts were in the studio. I think Neil Lennon was too busy winding up.
Chris Boyd was raging.
I think Neil Lennon was too busy winding up. Certainly Chris Boyd in particular, and I thought he did a good job of that as well. But I thought, my conclusion, and genuinely, I know you're always biased, but my conclusion was it was a foul, and it was the right decision. I don't think at Ibrox, with no Celtic fans in there, that you're going to get the 50-50. So the ref and the experts sort of had a look at it really, really closely. I'm sure I've made the right decision. I think the officials as well are officials who haven't given us decisions in the recent past. So I don't think we expected to get any favours today, and I'm sure the decision was the right one.
Aye, Darren, we'll get towards half time. 2 minutes added. Joe Hart plays a goal kick up the pitch. Goldson makes a poor clearing header back to the halfway line. O'Reilly heads it forward, and for the life of me, live, I thought he must be offside because he was clearly behind Goldson, but I think it was maybe Suter that was 3 yards deeper. But the ball's dropped over Kyogo's shoulder, and you think he's got time. He had time with his second chance in the first half. He had lots of time. Could have cut it back for a bad. Didn't. Wasted it, and you think sometimes you can have too much time running through in the keeper, and you think, how's he going to deal with this one? He didn't even take a touch. He just smashed it into the bottom corner. It made a brilliant noise against the net, but because there's no Celtic fans in the stadium and it's dead silence, you think maybe it is offside. I almost didn't celebrate till I'd seen the replay.
Well, do you know what else? The reason I thought it was offside, because Kyogo was little to no celebration. Like I normally when you score in that fixture, you're running to the dugout or into the fans or something. Kyogo just kind of struts away. I was like, oh no, is the flag went up? Because you can't see the linesman for the camera angle. It was such a. It's a really easy goal, to be honest, because like you said, it was quite a poor, not poor clearance from Goldson, but he's just clearing his lines, to be honest. And it's came to Matt O'Reilly, and that's just like a simple header. The Rangers' defence are at 6s and 7s, as you said, like Suter and Goldson, they're not in line with each other, so that's why the initial, like, it looks offside initially, and then Kyogo obviously just hits it first time, which what a finish, by the way. What a finish. To do that at a stadium like Ibrox is amazing. And I think the only reason he done that is because, like you said, I don't know, was it 5-10 minutes before, he had too much time, because it was a great ball into him from Matt O'Reilly's first touch was good, but then he kind of got the ball stuck under his foot a little bit, and then he wanted to wait that initial second till it was in front of him again, and it gave Goldson enough time to kind of get back and clear his line. So I thought that's kind of why then he's just like, you know what, I messed up the first chance, I'm just going to put my laces through it. And you don't really see, I can't remember I've seen Kyogo score from outside the box, you know what? That's mental. But I think
that one at Dundee United last season, didn't it?
Oh yeah, when he scored the hat-trick. Yeah. Aye. But it came at a perfect time. I think 45 minutes into the second minute added time, it just took, I think it took the stuffing out of Rangers going into half time. It obviously changed both teams' team talks a little bit, because the game was pretty, Celtic were the better team getting into half time, but obviously if we came back out the second half, we would still need to open up a wee bit and leave gaps. But going into the second half, I think we never really pushed forward for there. We just kind of took it easy a bit, because Rangers never gave us too much of a threat. We just kind of sat back a bit and said to Rangers, "What, we're happy for you to come at us, because you've not created nothing. We're just going to sit back a wee bit." And then that's when, because Kyogo was invisible the second half, and that's when I was kind of saying, like, look, Kyogo needs to come off and get on, because we need that big physical guy up front, because at an outball sort of thing. And that actually kind of helped when he came on, I thought, because we actually got the ball up to O, just goal-line clearances to get up to O, and he brought it down. We actually got a few chances from him. This is when Rangers had opened up with like 10 minutes left, and we actually could have killed the game a wee bit. So I think that goal came at the perfect time, just to keep this going into the rest of the game.
It was the perfect time to score a goal, Martin. It always is right before half-time. Totally changes the complexion of the game. 6 goals in his last 6 games against Rangers for Kyogo. That is a goal that we'll remember for years. The special goals you think about at Ibrox, technically speaking, I mean, that is incredible. That's the hardest thing he could have done. When that ball's coming through to him, the hardest thing to do is take it first time on the volley over your shoulder and put it in the bottom corner. What a finish.
It was absolutely brilliant. And you see the angle from behind the goal as well. The keeper's nowhere near it. It's just precision. Struck it so well. He struck it so well. And one of the many, many things I love about Kyogo, I know you're a huge fan, Paul, and I've been for a long time, been telling us forever how good he is. He's just so composed. He really is. He plays on his toes, so he's always on the move. As Dan said a couple of times on this particular session, he doesn't have to necessarily be in the game, but he'll do a lot of running off the ball. So he'll pull players away out of position and just be a pest, because you think you're marking him, and then where is he? He disappears. But he's finishing, how clinical he is, and his goals in big games as well. He's just, we cannot underestimate the importance of keeping him at the club. We're all gutted that Jota moved on, right? Jota had great spells at the club, and then he had spells where he was a wee bit sort of fell away and didn't feature in some of the games. Kyogo's always been there. He's massive. If there's one player you want to keep out of all our players from last year, it would have been Kyogo, and unquestionably, probably alongside CCV. And the fact they've managed to hold on to the two of them alongside some of the other prime assets, we cannot underestimate that. We're talking about not having made any £20 million signings, £10 million signings. Kyogo's that £20 million signing because we've kept him at the club. He's a huge player for us. And when you've got Kyogo on the team, you've got a chance. I mean, that game we played against Rangers last year, we lost 3-0. Kyogo didn't play in that game. I was trying to think earlier on, Paul, and I've not got the stats in front of me, but how many times have we played at Rangers with no fans? Obviously, there was a famous John Collins free kick all those years ago where Darren talked about the silence, and was that a goal or was it not a goal? It was a bit like that back then, albeit there was more of a celebration. But to go there and score,
I think it finished 1-1, didn't it?
Aye, but I think did we open the score that day? I think we did, but I just remember the free kick and just remember the feeling of wow, what a goal, and the Rangers fans' reaction. And this is where it's really interesting around: is there going to be opposition fans or not? Rangers did not bring a benefit to the club today at all. I mean, it's all very much pre-match build-up, all the rest of it. But because the game didn't go in their favour, they are the type of fans that get on top of it. I mean, they were booing at half-time. They were booing when Roof went off. They all left before the end. They weren't hanging about to see if they got an equaliser. An equaliser was never going to be enough. They knew themselves the writing was on the wall. There was absolutely no chance of getting 2 goals. So, the absence of the away fans today worked against them, and they're not that type of club, and they're not that type of fans that when things aren't going too well, the TV's getting thrown out the window type thing. So I really loved that. Just gutted we weren't there to celebrate with the team, because it would have been another great day at Ibrox.
Absolutely, aye. That's a good point you make there. It's brilliantly ironic, isn't it, that this situation that Rangers have created has came to work against them because they've got a team that can't handle pressure playing in front of their own fans. I'm asking you if that John Collins game finished 1-1, because I think this could be the first time that the opposition have won an away game in a derby between the two teams when there's been 0 away supporters. Certainly in these recent years when it's happened, it's always really helped the home team. But today, I mean, that's what I'm saying. In the second half, Rangers have chances, and we'll come on to talk about how we helped them a wee bit because we were slacking possession and we gave it away too often at times. But even when they got half chances, I didn't feel like the crowd were really there with them. I thought they just chucked it. There was dead silence. The atmosphere never really got going at any point in the game. And Martin's right, Dan. It totally worked against them.
Yeah, I think the fans going into this game, obviously on the back of a horrendous result, were obviously expecting a result. And it's because this is basically their full strength team. They've ran out of excuses now for Michael Beale, because there's going to be a hell of a lot of pressure on him. I know we'll talk about Rangers, and this is a Celtic. We're talking about Celtic, but we'll also talk about Rangers because that's the media's obviously going to talk about Rangers because this was their game to win. Right? Michael Beale's had umpteen amount of, I don't know how much money he spent on players, but he's got a £6 million striker who's hopeless. Didn't even start. That's how much confidence he's got in him. So the fans he's going to be under a lot of pressure this week. The fans are on his back. You saw the ones that stayed behind at the end were, they had no reason or enthusiasm to, clap the players off the pitch. They were angry and rightfully so.
Boo them, didn't they?
They stayed behind to boo them because this is a Celtic team who is so decimated with injuries, out of form. This was they could have went top of the league if they won the game. Now they're going home on the buses right now, 4 points behind Celtic, and Celtic will only get better as the team start to train under Rodgers, as the injuries start coming back. This was their one chance to get ahead of us and try and keep that lead going as long as possible, and they blew it.
Aye, absolutely. I couldn't agree more, Martin. We finished that game with a back four of Ralston, Lagerbielke, Scales, and Bernabe. I mean, that they will never face a weaker Celtic defence this season than that. And to be fair, Darren's right, you mentioned it earlier. Scales stood up and defended well. I thought Lagerbielke, he was very nervous on the ball. A couple of times in the second half as well. He was just giving it away far too easily. He was inviting pressure at times. I think that's where we were fortunate that the crowd weren't with Rangers, because I think at times in the second half we did give it away too cheaply in our own half. But they could never muster anything, never made anything of it. But I thought Lagerbielke was nervous. Jury's out on Bernabe. I mean, that is a depleted back four that we finished the game with. But I mean, credit to them. They come out with a clean sheet, and Joe Hart contributes to that as well with a couple of decent saves.
Yeah, I mean, we said that when Celtic were really struggling under Lennon, the performance of an individual player is very much reliant on who's round about them. So, if you put Taylor in a Barcelona team, he's going to look a much better player than you would if you put him in, playing for Bonnyrigg Rose, right? Because you've got better players round about you. And we certainly found that when we had, for example, when we had Barkas in goals and he was having an absolute nightmare, right? And then the guys in front of him were struggling, Duffy and co were struggling. So you found then it made McGregor and Brown and players like that look bad. They were playing in goals practically because we were having to come so deep. So they then couldn't do their offensive work. So I do think that players like Taylor struggling a little bit just now is partly because he's not got settled personnel round about him. And, the team as a collective haven't yet got their act together, and even the absence of CCV being an obvious one. We've said before he could probably play in defence himself, and you wouldn't notice. Interestingly enough, I think Scales has maybe been awarded man of the match today, which is incredible, and great credit to him because he's been really patient. Obviously, went out and played at Aberdeen and did reasonably well. The fact that we've brought in 3 replacement players and CCV will be back before we know it. How much game time Scales going to get, but. Who knows? He might go on and get a bit more game time certainly in the next few weeks, depending on how quickly the new guys come in and get their place. I think a lot of people expected Phillips to be brought in for today, just to slot right in. But no, the manager's obviously seen enough of Scales that he trusted in him. And a special call out for the manager today. He's come under a lot of criticism, and I know there's a certain section of the fan base that don't support the fact that or don't believe in the decision to bring him back to the club, and that's fair enough. We're all entitled to our individual opinions. But you look at his record against Rangers, and it's one of the things that, in those games, he knows how to negotiate a win. Some players go missing in these big games against Rangers, and some managers don't have great records. But Brendan Rodgers' record against Rangers, albeit they weren't as strong when Rodgers first arrived, and obviously they've gradually got a little bit stronger. But he's now 14 matches against Rangers, and he's won 11 of those, 2 draws and only 1 defeat. So this is a guy who knows how to get these results against Rangers home and away. And here you are, he's delivered today, because we haven't yet talked about him, but we talk about how weak the team was, particularly in defence, maybe not so much in midfield. A lot of people are saying Turnbull was going to be a weak link. And Brendan Rodgers has come up with a good, so a special mention to him today, and a big day for him with regards to winning the fans over again after coming back to the club.
Aye, he has. He's got a great record in this fixture, and you do have confidence in him. That's why the last couple of weeks, even though the team's performance has been really poor, you've still got confidence there in Rodgers' ability as a coach. There's absolutely no doubt in that. And he's proved it again today. One of the things when he came back was that everybody was saying, aye, but it's a different Rangers he's up against this time, but he's came out on top again today. Darren, other good performers for us, obviously we mentioned McGregor, who I thought was excellent, dictated the game, particularly first half. I thought we looked a threat on the break. I thought Dyson made up in a lot of brilliant work defensively, as he always does, getting tackles in, getting his body in, and also making a couple of brilliant runs on the break. But again, it's just that final product. We had so many chances in that second half to kill the game on the break, and we just couldn't make anything of them.
Aye, I think during the game I got a wee bit heated, and I really almost broke my TV with Dyson Maeda sometimes, because, like you say, that final ball of his, especially on his left foot, is pretty dire. But it's just that stuff he does off the ball, which really does a lot for the team just going forward. I think he really needs to improve. During the game I always get really frustrated at him, and then after the game I kind of look back and say, like, he's done some aspects good, but this part of the game, his final ball and his finishing, it really needs to improve on. But you're right, we could have killed the game on, because as I said a few minutes ago, towards the last 15 minutes Rangers started to open up a wee bit, and Cal McGregor and Matt O'Reilly, they worked really well at getting the ball forward, especially to the wingers. And I thought Holm done that really good as well when he came on. Like, he came on for Turnbull, who I thought was a bit of passenger for most of the game, but Holm kind of stepped up a wee bit when he came on, and basically from the back line to the midfield to the attackers was just quite seamless, getting the ball forward, because Rangers were leaving such gaps. Yang especially, he kind of worked well with O, because I know they've obviously this kind of same country as well, but there was a big chance at the end, which really frustrated me when Bernabe got forward and he put it in for O, and then I don't know what that touch is.
Tried to flick it around the corner for Yang, he just got it all
crazy,
wrong.
Man. He did. I mean, I think if you take the emotion out of it at the time, if we've got our better players there, we do maybe win that. I think I read one of the comments there that says, a few minutes ago that says if we had, our full strength team, we're winning that 2 or 3-0. I would need to agree with that comment. I think obviously most of the 3 that started up front today, that's kind of your full strength 3. But if you put like Rio Hatate into that, and then you've got Luis Diaz, who never came off the bench, if you've got better attackers there, we probably could have won that by a few more.
Aye, I think so, Martin. I thought, as I say, a wee bit cheating possession of their own half at times in the second half, but the defence dealt with whatever Rangers could throw at them. First half, I thought there's a couple of long balls they should have dealt better with, but to their credit, they did defend whenever Rangers tried to play through us, which wasn't very often. And Joe Hart comes up with saves when we needed them, but it was those chances on the counter. We had plenty of chances when they were up the pitch breaking on them. We could have been clinical, and I think Darren's right. I think a full strength Celtic team could have punished those chances.
Well, definitely. In a game of that magnitude, with that rivalry, you're never, ever going to get 90% of the game all going your way. There's going to be spells in the game where the game goes against you. I think we were talking in the chat, there was a particular period in the first half where we had I think it was 79% possession over a 10-minute period. And you will get those spells. You're just like, they can't get the ball off us and we're in complete control here. Rangers were all, and the other factor in a game is, does a team go ahead? If a team goes ahead in a game, then it's almost inevitable that the other team's going to get more. It's not a guarantee, but in a game like that, particularly if you're saying we're quite comfortable, we're ahead in the game, the other team, obviously the onus is on them to try and attack, to try and get that chance. It's going to get them the equaliser. So that there is a little bit inevitability in a situation like that. But I never ever felt 8 minutes. Normally we'd be sitting saying, 8 minutes, head in your hands, can't watch, hiding behind your hands. But I didn't feel that way in the game at all. I didn't feel Rangers offered much. And in fact, the two players that took off, in Matondo and Roof, I thought, well, they've taken off their only attacking threats. And as I say, the likes of Cantwell, who I've not yet subscribed to this, Cantwell, and what a great player is and all the rest of it. But in the Rangers fans' eyes, he's their hero. And again, I thought he was really, really quiet in the game. So I didn't feel under any pressure. I knew they were always going to get a couple of half chances, and they did. But that is always going to happen in a game like that. And I always felt we were capable of getting that second goal. The one that Darren's talking about, where we went up the field and the initial pass was played in. It probably should have been played in earlier. Rather than playing the pass in at the first opportunity, it was played in at the second opportunity after another pass in a couple of yards, and it was played slightly behind or alongside the player rather than in front of the player. So had to check back to get control of the ball and then think about that try to play that deft pass in, rather than had it been played just in front of him at the first opportunity, maybe not just do a Kyogo and slot it home in the corner. So there was, the chances that we had were as good as the chances that Rangers had. But overall, Paul, a really, really convincing win and a massive, massive statement. I mean, I don't know where Beale goes from here. I think the fans will turn against him now. I think he's in big trouble.
I think so.
Yeah. Darren, it's a big win. It's always a big win when you go to Ibrox and take 3 points. We're now 4 clear of them in the league after 4 games, when we haven't really started playing yet, have we?
Well, that's kind of what I said during the game 10 minutes ago. That was Rangers' chance, because we can only get better now. I think we're going to... Is this an international break?
Yeah.
So I don't know what the injury timeline is on most of our players, but surely we should expect maybe 2 or 3 more back. I would like to know how long Alistair Johnson's, if he's going to be out for. I know. I hope it was on his feet at the end, and he was celebrating with the team. So hopefully it's just took him off as a precaution. But I do think that we can push on now, because there was I don't want to say it was a monkey on the shoulders.
Bit of negativity, wasn't there?
Bit of negativity because of the unconvincing performances, and then obviously the cup defeat to Kilmarnock really, put a microscope under some of the performances. But like Martin says, this is a bit of a statement today. So going forward, I think the players will get a bit of confidence for that. Not also that, I think it will knock a lot of confidence out of Rangers. But we can only focus on ourselves, I think. So I think going into the international break will do good to get some players back, get them trained under Rodgers a wee bit more, because there's still obviously a few tweaks in his system that aren't right. I think the likes of Taylor needs to train under the manager a bit, because he looks lost just now. I think it's that transition from him going from inverted fullback to a conventional fullback is really threw him off a wee bit. He's kind of back to the Taylor that we saw before Ange. So a wee bit more training, and for even just the whole squad to get to know each other, because there is some new faces. Not a lot of new faces for the starting 11, but even just the depth players to train with everyone. Everyone should get better, I think.
Yeah, and that should give everybody huge confidence, Martin. The players, the coaching staff, everybody should feel a bit taller after going to Ibrox with no supporters and coming away with 3 points. It's a huge boost for us. The thing that I can't shake, though, coming away for that game is I think that today underlines why the measuring stick for Celtic can't be how far you are ahead of Rangers, because we know we're ahead of Rangers. We're in a bad way. We're injury depleted, and we've went to Ibrox without any supporters and won relatively comfortably today. I think that's why we need to measure against these European clubs of a similar stature to us and think about how we move forward and progress beyond the domestic stuff, because we've got the domestic stuff sorted. We've been so successful in recent seasons, but and obviously it's a big rivalry. I understand that. Nobody loves beating Rangers more than I do, but I just think if you're going to be satisfied constantly with beating Rangers and never pushing on at that higher level, then I don't think we'll get to where we should be and progress the way we should as a club.
I totally agree. I mean, we've had lots of interesting discussions and debates in person and over social media just about the challenge that's in front of not just Scotland, but you get into the realms of economics, don't you? So the Saudi guys come along and make it more difficult for the money men in the English Premier League. But the gulf is becoming bigger and bigger and bigger, and there's so many consequences to that. So player retention is becoming more difficult. Being able to sign players that are top players, not top players, being able to sign players that are decent and of a good standard is becoming more difficult. and we then just become a feeder club. Players will come in, and you used to keep them for 2 or 3 years. Now we're lucky to keep them for a year because the difference in salary is huge. So it's becoming more of a challenge for us to compete in Europe. And that doesn't mean to say we should just roll over and say, we don't have any appetite to get to the last 16 in the Champions League or to even feature in the Champions League year in, year out. It will be interesting to see with the revamp next year if that's worse or better for us. I suspect it's worse, and it's going to be harder to qualify. But we all agree we want to be competing in Europe. It's just how difficult is it becoming with the economic environment to bring good players in and to keep good players and to keep up with the demands of those players. There is very little. There are very few players who hang about our club. I mean, we've had James Forrest, Callum McGregor, one or two others that have hung about. Scottish born and bred, come through the academy, real association and affiliation to the club. But other than that, if you're bringing in some of these foreign players, they've no reason to hang about. I mean, we've even seen the likes of Tierney moving on, understandably so. Nobody could really deny the move and the life-changing move that he made. First and foremost, we want to be ahead of Rangers when it comes to all these records, don't we? We want to win more trophies, and we're nearly there. We want to win more leagues, and we're nearly there. So, the fans would like to get over the line with that, and it's coming. We know it's coming. It's inevitable. It's coming. It's just how long it will take. Will it be 1 year, 2 years, or 3 years before we break all these sort of domestic records? And it will really. Our bread and butter has to be that we stay ahead of Rangers, because you do tend to get cycles. If you look in England, you've had Liverpool dominating, Man United dominating, it's now Man City. Who will it be next? Will it be Newcastle? Will it be another club that dominates? It's that philosophy that nothing lasts forever. Although somebody I work with tells me all the time that if you look at Celtic's history and you discount the first part of our history, then we have dominated Rangers over a long period of time, 40, 50 years, when you look at the trophies we've won. But it still comes in cycles. Rangers had a 9 in a row, didn't they? In recent times, some of us have still got the scars for that 9 in a row, and how difficult it was growing up when they were winning it. So they had that period of dominance, and you see it in other countries as well. But we want that dominance to last forever, and that's a big ask, Paul. So first and foremost, that's our bread and butter. But I couldn't agree more. Wouldn't we like to go into the Champions League and get more than 0 points, 1.2 points? We'd like to go and get a couple of victories and get back those glory nights at Celtic Park where you did win your 3 home games. And we weren't very good. We've never been very good on the road, but could we go and get a victory or 2 on the road as well? And this year I've got a wee feeling we've got a chance to do that, but it is going to be tough, and we'll need to have our best players available. We'll need all these new signings. I think I said we brought in 9 signings, 22 million we've spent on those signings. Now, the net spend might not be huge, but that's still a big outlay for those 9 players. Now, how quickly can they come in and grab one of the starting slots? And of course, we want a Hatate at his best, and then CCV back in. And there has been chat this week about there being a bit of divide in the dressing room. I don't subscribe to that, because a lot of the early chat from the players, O'Reilly in particular, but other players as well, were saying that they were enjoying some of what Brendan Rodgers brings. He is different to Ange, and you've seen all the plaudits Ange is getting down south. Ange was a one-off, but I believe that Brendan Rodgers brings a lot from a man management perspective, and with high hopes that he'll develop some of these players in the way that he did the last time he was at Celtic.
Yeah, absolutely. Darren, back to the game today. Can you round us off with your man of the match?
Oh, good question, mate. Good question. I'll need to say my top 3 first of all. Second and third, I would need to say Callum McGregor and Matt O'Reilly. 2 of them were brilliant in the midfield today. When I seen the Rangers line up, I kind of thought that the battle in the game would have been won in midfield, and the 2 of them really, really stepped up and kind of got us going from there. But my man of the match is going to be Liam Scales. Probably a bit of a whipping boy after last week, because he's not a big name, and he spent a last season on loan, and he's not a Celtic calibre starting 11 player, but his hand's been forced by the manager, and he's been asked to do a job and come in at Ibrox, which can never be easy. I don't think he's ever even come off the bench at Ibrox. And like you mentioned at the end, the back 4 lineup itself, I thought he was probably the standout for them, and to get a clean sheet there, and from all the stick he got from last week, I would need to say Liam Scales.
Yeah, he does. He does deserve credit, Liam Scales, today. As I say, stood up and was counted and took his opportunity. For me, I've got to go Callum McGregor. I think he's so important to how we play, Martin. I thought today, even though he had the space and the time to dictate the tempo in the first half, he was brilliant. But it's so often the case that when Callum McGregor plays well, the team plays well. And I thought that was the case today, so he's my man of the match. Who's yours?
Mine's is McGregor too. I listened to Neil Lennon saying at half time that he thought McGregor had dominated the match, he'd bossed the match. Rangers couldn't handle him, and I couldn't agree more. And again, he continued some of that into the second half. And as you say, it's so important for the team. he's come under a lot of criticism. Early stages of the season, after a couple of games, a lot of people calling him out. It's been one of the reasons that we're underperforming. But he's only human. You know, it can't be 8, 9, 10 out of 10 week in, week out. But he's come back and silenced some of those critics with his performance today. I thought he was exceptional. So for me, Callum McGregor.
Yeah, there you go. That is it for a live full-time reaction to Celtic's 1-0 victory at Ibrox. Whatever you're doing with your Sunday afternoon, enjoy it. I hear there's a party at George Square, so you might want to get involved in that. We'll be back through the international break and building towards the return against Dundee. So thank you for watching. Please don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already, and we will see you soon. Thank you.